Tony Stark, the genius billionaire behind Iron Man, has always walked the line between brilliance and catastrophe. But among all his mistakes, one stands out as his greatest misstep: cloning the mighty Thor. This decision didn't just change the course of the Civil War, it shattered trust, sparked outrage, and led to one of the most shocking moments in Marvel history. Stick around as we dive into this controversial chapter, where Tony Stark's hubris almost tore the superhero community apart. The Civil War storyline is one of the most pivotal and divisive events in Marvel Comics. It all began with a tragedy, an explosion in Stamford, Connecticut, caused by a group of young heroes known as the New Warriors. Their battle against the explosive villain Nitro ended in disaster, killing hundreds of innocent civilians. The fallout from this tragedy was immense, leading to the introduction of the Superhero Registration Act. This new law required all heroes to unmask and register with the government, placing them under official supervision. The superhero community was split right down the middle. On one side was Tony Stark, Iron Man, who believed in the necessity of the act to prevent further tragedies. On the other side stood Captain America, who saw the act as a violation of civil liberties and a danger to the very ideals they fought for. This disagreement quickly escalated into an all-out civil war between heroes. Now, Tony Stark is no stranger to difficult decisions, but what he chose to do next took the conflict to an entirely new level. Thor, the god of thunder, was absent at the time, having passed away during the events of Ragnarok, a storyline where Asgard was destroyed and Thor was believed to be dead. With the battle lines drawn, Tony felt he needed an edge to turn the tide against Captain America's forces. And what better weapon than a literal god? But Thor wasn't available, so Tony decided to create his own. It might sound like something out of a mad scientist's lab, but for Stark, it was just another day at work. He happened to have some of Thor's hair from their first encounter. Yes, Tony Stark, the ultimate planner, kept a lock of Thor's hair on file. With this DNA sample, Tony teamed up with Reed Richards, also known as Mr. Fantastic, and Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, to clone Thor. They didn't just stop at cloning, they enhanced this new being with Stark technology, embedding cybernetics into the clone, which they codenamed Ragnarok. This wasn't just a copy of Thor, it was a technologically superior version, designed to be an unstoppable force on the battlefield. Tony unleashed Ragnarok during a critical battle between the two factions of heroes. From the moment Ragnarok appeared, it was clear something was wrong. This wasn't the Thor that everyone knew and respected. There was something off, something dangerous about him. The battle quickly escalated, and then, in a moment that shocked everyone, Ragnarok did the unthinkable. He killed Goliath, Bill Foster, with a single devastating lightning strike. The entire battlefield went silent as Goliath's massive body fell to the ground. This was not the behavior of a hero. This was the act of a weapon, a tool, something that Tony Stark had created but could no longer control. The death of Goliath was a turning point in the Civil War and had far-reaching consequences. After Goliath's death, the already fragile trust between Tony Stark and his fellow heroes was completely shattered. Captain America and his allies, who had once considered Tony a friend, now saw him as a dangerous man who had crossed an unforgivable line. The fallout from this event was immense. Heroes on both sides began to question their actions and their alliances. The Civil War wasn't just a physical battle anymore, it became a war of ideals, with each side questioning the morality of their actions. But the story doesn't end there. Shortly after, the real Thor returned from the dead. And when he discovered what Tony had done, how he had desecrated Thor's legacy by creating a twisted clone, Thor was furious. The confrontation between Thor and Tony Stark was inevitable, and when it happened, it was as explosive as you'd expect. Ragnarok, the clone, was eventually defeated by a combination of heroes, including Hercules, who smashed the clone with his own hammer. But even in defeat, Ragnarok's legacy wasn't over. It was later revealed that one of the clone's creators, Hank Pym, was actually a Skrull imposter, setting into motion events that would lead to Ragnarok's eventual return. Ragnarok would later join the Dark Avengers, a team of villains masquerading as heroes, further cementing the disastrous consequences of Tony Stark's actions. The creation of Ragnarok remains a dark chapter in Stark's history, one that exemplifies his worst traits: his hubris, his stubbornness, and his belief that he always knows best. By the end of the Civil War, Tony Stark found himself in a position of power, assuming command of SHIELD. But despite all the bloodshed, the betrayals, and the lives lost, Stark didn't fully learn from his mistakes. He continued to push forward, driven by the belief that he was right, no matter the cost. It wasn't until much later, through further trials and redemption arcs, that Tony began to truly understand the consequences of his actions. The story of Tony Stark cloning Thor is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and ego. It's a tale of a man who, despite his best intentions, lost sight of the line between right and wrong. The Civil War storyline remains one of the most controversial and compelling in Marvel Comics, not just because of the battles fought, but because of the moral and ethical questions it raises. In the end, Tony Stark's attempt to clone Thor stands as a testament to how even the greatest heroes can fall, and how those falls can have devastating consequences for everyone around them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe to Comics Unpacked for more awesome comic stories and breakdowns. See you in the next one.